We are just finishing up a timing belt and water pump replacement on a 2006 Honda Accord 3-liter V6. We use the Ison kit. It has the OEM components in it. It looks like a good quality kit. Now the main purpose of this video is to talk about removing and reinstalling the crankshaft nut. A lot of people have mentioned that they're extremely tight and difficult to get off, which is true. But what we used here is this Lyle socket 77080. It's very thick, 19 millimeter, it's heavy. And this thing removed the crankshaft nut in about 3 seconds with the Ingersoll Rand impact wrench. So that you won't need anything other than that if you get that socket. Now when you're reinstalling this crankshaft nut, the torque specification is 181 foot-pounds, which means that you'll need a 250 pound torque wrench to do it, or alternatively you torque the nut to 47 foot-pounds and an additional 60 degrees of rotation. So if you have a rotational gauge or a torque wrench that does degrees, you can do it that way. However, there is a way to get around that and still do the job properly by using this socket. So what you want to do is on the crankshaft nut, before you loosen it, take a punch or a chisel and make a mark on the edge of the nut, not the washer but the nut, and in the same spot on the pulley make a mark. This way you'll know exactly where the nut was tightened originally. And when you go back with it, you can retighten it using the Lyle heavy socket back to the original spot. Now when I reinstalled this one, the instructions give you the guidance to torque the nut to 47 foot-pounds and then an additional 60 degrees of rotation. And I did that on this one on the way back, and once I torqued it to 47 foot-pounds, it was just about 60 degrees off from my original mark. So I took the Lyle heavy-duty socket and carefully tightened it to the point that the marks aligned where its original position was. So this way I did a little bit of a experiment on it and tested the validity of this idea. But the socket makes it very easy to get that nut on, and you can retorque it to the original position and the original torque spec this way by marking it prior to disassembly. I think the only warning here would be if you think that the car has been worked on and someone didn't properly torque the crankshaft bolt on a previous repair, you might want to go with the 250 pound torque wrench or the 47 foot-pounds and additional 60 degrees of rotation. But this one went back just fine, and I'm completely confident that it's properly torqued. But when you're going back with this big socket, you got to go slowly. Just hit it for a couple seconds and pull the socket off and look, because you don't want to over tighten it. So just go slow with it. Tighten it a little bit and look, tighten it a little bit and look. But you can do it in relatively quick time. But that should save a lot of trouble. I've seen several videos on YouTube where they have extensions and 8-foot bars and everything else to get this off. But with this socket, it's a relatively simple operation. And if you mark the nut first, you can even put it back with that and feel confident about the work you've done. So we're just, all we have to do is top the coolant off here and check it. I started it up yesterday, it runs perfectly. So I hope this video was of some value.